Good morning, everybody.
Howdy. If you hear a little crunching or something, I have a sore throat this morning, so I have to have a throat lozenge in here.
Well, that's what happens when you're on the phone all morning.
I know.
Yes. Plus, it's kind of chilly this morning.
Yeah.
With snow on the way. We've got a few things to cover here. Many of you have sent us links and information, so we really appreciate it. But we are mostly going to be covering the morning worship that just went up on jw.org. And in our humble, and like the Boys Club would say, very simple, understanding, we just want to give a few of our humble opinions.
Well, here's the understanding, okay, from these two simple-minded people right here. When you Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be looking at a document this week about corporate changes, it's no different than when you go to work for a large corporation and you sign the company handbook. When I managed the rental yard and I had to hire people, I had to go through the handbook with them, and I had to make sure they signed the document that they were explained the company policies. Yeah, for some people this may not be a big deal. They might look at it
As
on
useless?
the simple, useless level. But at the same time, when I managed a multi-million-dollar corporation, a branch manager, every time the corporation changed their bylaws, we had to come out with a new company handbook. And guess what we all had to do, people? We had to sign the new company handbook with the corporate changes, even if it changed from, the governing body to the ecclesiastical governing body. So make no mistake about it, Mark O'Donnell, we're not as simple-minded as you like to make people think.
Well, I want to thank the PMO in Canada who works for a law firm that sent me this information, because they told me, they don't know about the laws here in the United States, but the way it works in Canada, and it sounded very similar to the way it works here in the United States. There are clauses, like when you go to do your wills, there will be clauses that will say, and if this person, or this organization is not in existence, then, give it to this organization. But those clauses are not in charity corporation contracts or bylaws, articles of incorporation. So, this person thought that was kind of strange. We don't know. We're not lawyers. Now, I did dig out some of our old documents in Beastzilla and read them. And yes, it does say if Watchtower is not in existence, however it was worded, and they go through the legalese, and then it says the governing body will decide which corporation this assets would go to. The governing body. Change we noticed was it went from governing body in past documents to ecclesiastical governing body. And we think this is damage control. They're trying to change these bylaws and articles because we know they are going through a tremendous amount of lawsuits, investigations, you name it, worldwide. And I want to thank Katina for sending me some documents to a case going on in New York on child abuse. And I'm going to put the link down below. Grab those documents. There's some exhibits and stuff in there that Zolkin has filed with the court that are very interesting. And they have a copy of these older articles, bylaws. So, this is interesting, these cases going on, because we can see Watchtower trying so hard to cover, their backsides and get out of paying these.
And also think about it from this perspective too. If the lawsuits are being charged against the 8 governing idiots at this point in time, and they're only defined as the governing body in the corporate handbook, now they can put in a ecclesiastical governing body who just might, by the wording, escape prosecution. That leaves the door open for the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses that exists right now. That leaves the door open for them to be replaced, and there's nothing anybody can do because you all agreed, and by proxy, your elders have signed the new corporate mandates.
Now, I want to thank Ruth Morum for sending me the information and the link to her video. I'm going to put the link down below. She is covering these court orders that she has against the elders and Watchtower, and they're disregarding them. They don't care. See, and this is what we've been saying. They think they're above the law. But listen to what she is explaining about these documents and these orders that the court has and how Watchtower is ignoring them. So we can see.
Well, it's almost like they're purposely planning on collapsing the business.
At least the Watchtower Bible Tract Society of New York. And like we've mentioned before, this is speculation on things we've observed with the Catholic Church. This is exactly what the Catholic Church has done. They are dissolving these dioceses into other organizations, other branches of the Catholic Church, and filing bankruptcy. There's been at least 2 here in the state of New Mexico that have filed bankruptcy.
Yep.
And this is happening all over, because when you do that, just like the Boy Scouts did the same thing. They have so many child abuse cases that, they cannot afford to pay all of this. So what do? They dissolve the corporation and file for bankruptcy.
Right.
So, this is just a pattern that we have noticed.
Yes. And with this recent morning worship, listen to the words that they're using in this morning worship. And do not overlook the fact that we dwell in their heads.
That's what we believe, that this morning worship is 100% damage control, and there's just a few things that we want to cover. So why don't we play the first clip?
They also put a negative spin on changes that they do not understand. Say why we simplified, did reassignments in 2015, and new explanations of the generation, changes at world headquarters. What's the result? Well, some are swayed by these things. They're stumbled, they're knocked down. It's too heavy for them to carry. How about us? How strong is our spiritual core? See, that's why we hear repeatedly that we must personally have a regular, deep study of the Scriptures. That's why we're reminded repeatedly that Jehovah is using the governing body to give us the good things that we have. Now, why is that so important? Well, because one day we may hit a time, whether personally, in our personal life, or as an organization, when all the other spiritual peripherals are gone, all the extras. What do we do then? What do we do, for example, if the lights go out on broadcasting? What happens perhaps when we don't have the incredible conventions, the touching videos, the catchy music, the beautifully written, well-written Watchtower articles, the exciting annual meetings? They're gone.
He's talking about your core. And later we're going to be listening to where he's talking about, well, he mentions, some who basically, they're so traumatized or shaken, I believe is the word he used, from the core truth, that if there's changes, they're off. They leave because of these changes.
But here's the thing, Watchtower. our facts dispute your opinions. Because you talk about some changes you guys have made. You guys changed from the generation of 1914 will not pass away until all these things occur to the overlapping generation. You changed your core beliefs. This is why people are leaving. Because when you change core beliefs, your presumed facts that the generation will not pass away to, well, now it's our opinion, it's an overlapping generation. You are the ones that are destroying the inner core of your members, not us.
Well, the inner core of our beliefs. You know, for our entire lives, ever since we were kids, we were told that that generation of 1914 would not pass away. So when you have that core belief, and then they destroy it...
Don't blame apostates. See, here's what really bothers me a lot about a lot of this stuff, Kim, is that when Jehovah's Witnesses first wake up and they start researching, they come to understand a few things about argumentation if you go that route. You learn what gaslighting is. You learn what a straw man argumentation is. You know what throwing in a red herring means. And yet, this is exactly what they're doing in this broadcast. They are gaslighting you, thinking we're the ones causing this. We did not change the core beliefs of the Watchtower and Babel Crop Society. They changed the core beliefs. So if your members are getting all, shaken up and they're, teetering and tottering, it's because you knuckleheads have proved yourselves to be false prophets. Not us. You did. Gaslighting.
They also capitalized on errors that were made. Look over to Luke chapter 9. You remember this is the account when the disciples could not cast out the demon of the young man. And you look at verse 40 here, the Father says, Luke 9:40, he says, I begged your disciples to expel it, but they could not. In response, Jesus said, O faithless and twisted generation, how long must I continue with you and put up with you? Bring your son over here. Now, as we know, apparently the scribes were criticizing the disciples because of their failure to heal the boy. Now, again, what if you were standing there? What if you saw this one with your own eyes? Say, wait a minute. Those are Jesus' disciples. That's their commission. That's what they're supposed to do. Perhaps these people aren't as special as I thought they were.
You guys hear how you're being gaslighted right now? How they're throwing in a red herring? This stinks to high heaven. Because this Watchtower Babel Crop Society has had over 100 years to fulfill the words, this generation will not pass away until all these things happen, including the Great Tribulation. Hell, the last meal I had with my mother 7 years ago, she had to confess, Michael, I'm going to die and we're still going to be in this system. Even that little statement right there, knuckleheads, tells me my mother's core has been shaken. She just hasn't figured it out yet, and she's never going to figure it out. Why? Because she stopped talking to me. So you guys have won in that little respect. But I also know that when you overlapped the whole generation, that's going to fail too, because you don't have enough time to pass off that piece of bullshit propaganda. Because that's all this is, guys. It's just red herring arguments. They're gaslighting everybody because they don't want the current Jehovah's Witness to listen to what we're saying. And they're trying to use a backdoor escape by using the setting of Jesus and his disciples. Well, they didn't listen to Jesus long enough. They didn't wait around to see. We've been waiting over 100 years, Watchtower. You're done. Your words have failed you because you made promises that are not going to come true because your interpretation is wrong.
Now, when you listen to this whole thing, he even goes through this little spiel of like, oh, well, if you would have been there and seen, he talks about the disciples were not able to exorcise a demon from, this little boy, and the father goes to Jesus and says, oh, well, your disciples weren't able to do this. You can see they're trying to apply this to themselves.
Exactly.
Oh, well, see, we're Jesus' disciples, and we're not able to do this. But does that mean we're not his disciples? You could just see, this little thing they're trying, this propaganda, they're trying to indoctrinate the Jehovah's Witnesses, see? And it's like, no matter what, it doesn't matter if we've changed, and it doesn't matter, if we've made mistakes. You need to stay with Jehovah's organization and remain faithful no matter what.
See, the fact is, it was Watchtower's opinion that the generation of 1914 would not pass away. It is dead and gone. How many of you on the other side of this camera have lost loved ones because of a faulty blood policy? How many of you have given up careers because Armageddon's just around the corner, just to be like my mother, grow old and die in this system of things? How many of you, because of the 1975 BS, went into debt beyond belief, and then you had to pay it all back or file bankruptcy? You ruined your own reputation because of these guys' opinion. The fact is, the damage was done, and it's been done consistently, and it will continue to be done consistently unless you older ones, because he mentions you older ones in particular in this particular morning worship, until you older ones wake up and go away. Because right now I guarantee you what they're counting on is the fact that you have signed your estate over to Watchtower.
Yeah. So we have another clip here.
Wicked men and impostors would also inflame statements that people did not understand. Look at John chapter 6 and verse 54. You remember here when Jesus said, whoever feeds on my flesh and drinks my blood has everlasting life, and I will resurrect him in the last day. What was the reaction? You look at verse 60. When they heard this, many of the disciples said, this speech is shocking. Who can listen to it? Verse 66, they went off to things behind and would no longer follow him. See, rather than giving it time to see if they understood it correctly, waiting to see if maybe Jesus clarified the statement, it knocked them. And you notice in verse 52, the Jews further stirred this up. And because of that, many stopped following him. It was too heavy for them to carry. Now, what if you were there and this time you heard Jesus say that? Whoa, man, that's odd. I don't think I can explain that teaching. He seems to be getting more and more extreme. Well, how did many react to these attacks? Well, the crowds, they loved to follow Jesus. They loved to hear his winsome words. No man's ever spoken like this. Thousands would come to be fed by him, to be healed by him. But in the end, most did not stick with Jesus. Why? Well, because when you strip all the other peripherals away, all the other extras away, it came down to their faith in Bible prophecy and that this man that was speaking to them was the Son of God. Their spiritual core was not strong enough.
Now, what I noticed in this particular clip is he's trying to compare it to Jesus, being the Son of God. And most left Jesus. Well, isn't that what's happening with Watchtower? Most are leaving their organization. And they don't even claim to be the Son of God. So it's like, this isn't a really good analogy for him to be using on this, because if they left Jesus, who's supposed to be the Son of God, for his shocking talk and shocking teachings, then wouldn't that mean more so with Watchtower and these other religions, because they've gone really extreme? It doesn't make sense that he's trying to make this comparison. This is not a good comparison, a good analogy at all.
Well, and here again, here's comes a misdirection, using the Bible to misdirect. Because he points to the scripture where, nobody spoke like Jesus. I want you Jehovah's Witnesses, get a paper and pencil and go through the gospel accounts. And everywhere you see where Jesus spoke, write it down. Now, Watchtower has a very good cross-reference Bible. So you can take all those words from Jesus that, he never spoke like anybody else, and trace those words back to the Old Testament. I did. Look at what I did with, John the Baptist, when Jesus' disciples said, Master, teach us how to pray like John taught his disciples. Those aren't Jesus' magical words. Those are John the Baptist's words. But do you see how you can very easily be gaslighted? How you can be misdirected when you do not read that entire book, Old and New Testament, and compare them. You're going to find that Jesus spoke just like the people in the Old Testament did, because that's where most of his words come from. It's a misdirection.
Yeah, look over here, but don't pay attention to the fact that didn't most of Jesus' followers leave him because it was shocking? It was extreme?
Or maybe it wasn't so shocking. Maybe they just simply realized, wait a minute, this isn't anything new. This is something that, well, hell, if you go and get the book of Isaiah, you could almost read word for word what Jesus is saying. Maybe that's why they left, because they realized what this guy was actually doing.
Yeah. Yep. We're ready for the next one?
Obviously.
Well, today, wicked men and imposters use exactly the same techniques, and it's only going to get worse. They use lies and misrepresentation. They lie about how we deal with child abusers, how we care for the victims of child abuse.
Now, this is the particular comment phrase that I took exception to, because these are not lies on how Watchtower handles child abuse. We use court documents, we use their testimonies to these commissions, we use their press releases, we use all of this right now. And I want to thank the people who have sent me this. I will put the link down below. I had to translate it. But right now, in the Netherlands, they are taking it to the Supreme Court. Watchtower's taking it to the Supreme Court to fight the seizure of these documents on child abuse. So instead of saying, yeah, look, we screwed up, yeah, we have been hiding it, they were trying to hide these documents, and they went in and seized all of this. Well, I'm just going to mention here, under the subheading, the case. The case concerns the seizure of objects and the recording of data in the context of searches of, among other things, the headquarters of the Christian Congregation of the Jehovah's Witnesses in Emmen, and the homes of a number of elders in November of 2018. The reason for that investigation are charges against 9 former members of the Christian Congregation of the Jehovah's Witnesses for sexual abuse. So they were trying to, the government was trying to seize these records that Watchtower will not hand over and readily, cooperate. Look at the UK. They're not cooperating there. Australia,
They're definitely not cooperating there.
Yeah, the Australian Commission with the redress scheme, they are not cooperating there. These are not lies from us activists on how you handle child abuse. These are actual documents. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to put the link down below to the New York State Unified Court System. Grab these documents. This is the Kings County Supreme Court of a case that is going on right now with Watchtower. And I mean, some of the stuff in there is shocking, would shake you to your core.
Well, you know what I hear in this? I hear Watchtower saying the same thing some people on the left are saying. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? You guys are all lying. The evidence is right in front of you, Jehovah's Witnesses. You choose not to see it. You choose to believe the lies instead of looking for the full, entire context.
You can look under the comments to most of our videos and you'll see these JWs and apologists trying to defend Watchtower, saying we're lying, we're, crazy and everything else. Well, hell, even, some in the ex-JW community, Boys Club, these regressive elders.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are just crazy conspiracists. Conspiracists. You're just very simple-minded people that don't understand, some of the workings of these congregations. Okay. If we're lying, and these people won't even go click on these links and look for themselves. They just want to throw accusations out there. But if we're lying, what about the elder that was just charged, Pinkava, in Crystal Lake, Illinois? He was charged for hiding this child abuse case for years that he knew about. How many more kids were abused because this guy kept his mouth shut? Is that us saying this? Is this us lying about how Watchtower handles this? No. Elders are being charged.
Well, you know what I noticed about that case that you were talking about in the Netherlands? I don't know if anybody really caught it when reading the documents, but you know what jumped out right at me? When you're reading the case, this case concerns the seizure of objects and the recording of data in the context of searches of, among other things, the headquarters of the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. How come that doesn't say the headquarters of the Watchtower Babel Crap Society? Why are they specifically saying the headquarters, the Christian Congregation?
Well, the thing is a lot of people don't realize that the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses are the ones in charge of, like, the elders and circuit overseers and ones like that of the religious order now. They're members of the religious order, and that's another corporation, more documents.
Ecclesiastical governing body, there's your word change, there's your new, internal house, corporate documentation, the company handbook.
Yeah, and many of this has been revealed in court documents. Just go back to some of these court cases in California and Montana and several of these others. Just read through these actual court documents. And I haven't had a chance yet to read through this case going on in New York, but I'm sure it's very similar. That they try to protect themselves and say, oh, well, we're no longer in charge of elders and going-ons in the congregations. That's under the Christian Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses now. Oh, well, the service desk and the legal department, they're no longer under the Watchtower Bible Tract Society of New York.
It looks to me like the company is getting broke up. It looks like something might be part of a hostile takeover. Who knows? Let's wait and see what happens.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is when you've got all these different, tentacles of a corporation, it's very difficult to follow all of these changes and to notice minute details of changes that they make. It's just interesting. It's interesting. And, we're not trying to make a big deal and all of this and get everybody excited and over-sensationalize this. But it makes us go,
Well,
why these changes? Why the changes, just like in the baptism questions. Why these changes? Well, then you find out because they got sued. Well, same thing here. They are getting sued and hauled into courts all over the place, and instead of admitting their guilt and their hiding of these crimes, they're trying to protect themselves. And that's what this morning worship is all about.
yeah, and the very fact that we, as a community, we dwell in their heads. This isn't the first time that they've had to try to dispute in morning worship. So I got to ask, if this is your morning worship to your God Jehovah, what does a real morning worship look like to God?
You have to do this for morning worship. This is propaganda. This is not a morning worship.
Exactly.
To the God of the heavens. This is a propaganda piece to the indoctrinated Jehovah's Witnesses that are watching this.
Because you are desperately trying to hold on to those you do still have under your propaganda control. Yes. See, the facts dispute your opinions, but you've got to get those that are maybe starting to shaken at the core to go and look at the facts.
Yeah, exactly. Now, speaking of facts, we had a phone call this morning. Hi, sweetie. He called headquarters and was asking them, he says, aren't you concerned about the Jehovah's Witnesses writing in their names and return addresses and phone numbers and emails and stuff in this letter writing campaign that they're sending out to judges, politicians, businesses, and all of this? Aren't you concerned about the Jehovah's Witnesses using their private information for this? And what happened, Mikey?
Well, when the receptionist asked for his name, he was reluctant to give the name, and he was hung up upon. There is maybe we could get this Pimo to give us a statement in writing so we can have a fact in front of us.
Either that or call them again and use a fake name and record it.
Yeah, and record it.
And we will gladly put it up on our channel.
See, this is how easy it becomes for ex-members to dispute their opinions. Because that's all they've got at this point, friends, is opinions. They had 100 years of convincing the listening audience that I wouldn't grow old in this system. I wouldn't. There's no point in going to get educated, go to school, because we ain't going to be in this system long enough to use that education. And my poor mother, Michael, I'm going to die and we're still going to be in this system of things. And I said right away, you and me both, because I recognize that their opinions have never been factual.
See, and that's the point we want to make. Our facts of everything we do in our videos dispute their opinions and their propaganda. That's all it is at this point. They cannot prove anything.
Unlike some of the content that we put on this channel that regressive elders have tried to dispute, one case that comes to mind is subliminal messaging, the subliminal artwork. Oh, Mike, Kim, you guys don't want to be doing this because that's a subjective issue. Well, if I would have given in to those opinions, the fact stands. We found the penis on the back of the songbook. The fact stands. They had to get rid of that songbook because of that big old penis on the back of the songbook. The fact stands. Even in this community, there are those that will try to work against you because the fact the opinion appears to be that Watchtower has agents in here to disrupt what we're doing. But guess what? It don't work, because now you got morning worships like this where they are still trying to put out opinions as facts.
Yeah.
It don't work anymore, people. It don't work.
And the thing is this is our channel, and we are entitled to give commentary and opinions, just like these regressive elders have the right to put whatever they want on their channels. So, don't come after us, talking about us putting our opinions on here, because we are entitled to our opinions and commentary.
And the fact remains, Watchtower is changing the corporate handbook. They have to, because the wording in the corporation has changed. I know because I managed a multi-million-dollar branch to a big rental corporation, and every time we made those changes, we had to put out new handbooks. So this is something significant because Watchtower is changing.
See, and Watchtower does the same thing. How many times have they changed the organization book and the elders flock book in the past 10 years? Good Lord, the flock book is changing like every 6 months. We had a update in April and then another one in October.
See, and that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
Yeah. So they have to keep changing this, you know, just like the questions for baptism. They have to keep changing it. They have to keep changing the wording.
Why? Because we are doing our jobs all too well.
Yeah, exactly. And I will let you guys know that we have gotten a ton of phone calls, emails, and comments underneath the video we did about you become an ordained minister at your baptism. Oh, good Lord, has that opened a can of worms.
Yeah. Well, in fact, a PMO I talked to with a day ago or so regarding that very thing, he actually made his wife read that about the ordained minister, and all she could, because it came right out of the organization book or whatever book that we directed everybody to go and look at. And this PMO's wife just could simply say, "You're right."
You're right.
You tell me how an 8-year-old baptized Jehovah's Witness, now an ordained minister, has any legal right to put his signature on a marriage contract. He doesn't. So guess what? That fact disputes your opinions about an ordained minister.
And something I was thinking about when Mike was telling me about what this PMO says to his wife is, if you become an ordained minister at your baptism, and then later you're before a judicial committee, and you're under the legal age, you know, most states it's 18, either 18 or 21, how can they possibly have a judicial hearing for a baptized minor when you're not even allowed to vote for these new articles of incorporation and bylaws? You know, because it specifically said adult baptized. So
Exactly.
I guess it's just an honorary title that you're an ordained minister.
Yeah. Well, you know, I can just see them people going, what do we do now? Because everywhere you turn, Watchtower, we put facts ahead of your opinions, or we debunk your opinion with facts.
Well, I just wonder now if there's going to be a change and an update for the organization book to get rid of that you are an ordained minister at your baptism.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Time will tell. But see, the thing is, when you see these guys doing morning worship like that, they don't know which way to turn because they're getting bombarded everywhere with all of this. Why? Because they know there's a huge body of PMOs leaking us this stuff. A lot of that large body of PMOs are elders. A large body of that are just the rank and file that are PMOs holding on with the hopes that something that they see will stick. That's why when we did that video regarding the ordained ministers, this PMO went and tried to explain it to their family member. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but I do know because of having many conversations with this particular PMO that his wife is going to have to remain in the organization because of their family members. You see, this is the stranglehold that Watchtower has, because a Jehovah's Witness, Kim and I were there for many, many years, we never understood the concept of gaslighting. Now we do. That's why I say, guys, and I've said it once and I'll say it here and I'll continue to say it, debunking Watchtower is now elementary work for a guy like me. XJW Elder's wife Jane Doe, it's elementary. It's just that simple.
Yeah. So we have another clip here.
They twist statements that are made regarding our stand on blood, loyalty to families, disfellowshipping. They capitalize on what they perceive as errors.
It's interesting that he uses all the things that we have been talking about: separation of families, the blood issue, and he's basically admitting that this is true, but then he says that we twist this and blow it, I forget the exact wording, but blow it out of proportion or twist it, whatever, words he used.
Well, there again, perceived. See, perceived errors. He's gaslighting you people, making you people think that us ex-members, we don't possess the deep knowledge of what they teach. Got 42 years of being taught this so-called deep knowledge. My perception is now you guys are full of shit.
Perceived errors? These are not perceived errors. I called headquarters and asked about that article a couple of years ago, I believe it was 2015, about disfellowship members. And he denied it. And I had him look it up in the Watchtower. And he didn't have an answer for me. So see, this is not a perceived error. These are our facts are disputing your propaganda and opinions.
How is it a perceived error when in the early 60s you come out with your first blood or a blood booklet and basically said, not in so many words, that taking blood fractions is against God's law. And then in the 2000s, well, let's see, taking blood fractions is now a conscience matter. That is your perceived error, you moron, not ours. That's your perceived error, because hundreds upon hundreds of Jehovah's Witnesses lost their lives over your perceived error. Because when you make a bold-faced statement and then flip it decades later, well, now it's a conscience matter, that's your error, not ours. And the other thing is, Jehovah's Witnesses can't vote. Nope, you can't vote because you got to be politically neutral. But then in the same decade, the 2000s, whatever the hell it was, you say, oh, voting's now a conscience matter. That's your error, not ours.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
They don't get it.
Yeah. Which, it's coming up in these clips that we're going to touch more on that.
Okay.
Perhaps dogmatic statements we made in the past regarding a Bible prophecy or understanding of the time of the end, and then we later changed it.
Do you see what he just did? He just admitted to 1874, 1914, 1925, and 1975.
Right out of the mouth of these babes.
Yeah. About, perceived, dogmatic doctrines. He admits they had dogmatic doctrines. You see?
Right.
He just admitted it. This is not us lying. This is not us, not understanding and not perceiving what he said it. This is the fact. This is not, apostate lies or wicked men lies and twisting things. He just said this.
Let me help you Jehovah's Witnesses in the most simplest words that I can come up with. I'm going to put these in spiritual words so that you can grasp on a spiritual level the depth of what this man is saying during your morning worship to Jehovah. You know what they're saying? Holy shit, this is unraveling before all our eyes. Because that's what he's saying. He's telling you Jehovah's Witnesses how they are unraveling. This is nothing but propaganda, damage, controls. Listen intently. and you will hear that they are unraveling.
Yeah. So I think that's about all we want to cover at this point, but I'm going to put the link down below to this. I would highly recommend it. It's only about 10, 11 minutes, something like that. You know, it's worth a listen, and grab it and share it with your Jehovah's Witness families and friends, and, you know, try to explain to them what he is really saying. He's admitting to all of this.
Their dogmatic statements have destroyed lives.
Exactly. And he's admitting that they have dogmatic doctrines in the past.
So, if they're having to admit this, and we see all of this stuff coming about, that their opinions are no more than anyone else's opinion in the religious sector, now you might be able to understand and comprehend a little bit better why they are floating towards becoming an organization of an interfaith. They don't have any other choice because they're already debunking themselves in this. They are, well, they're disputing their own facts, right? I mean, it's a fact that this generation will not pass away, and now he's disputing their own facts, their own dogmatic bullshit.
We were told it's a fact that we would probably not even finish high school. That we wouldn't even have a chance, you know, to grow up, let alone finish high school.
Well, let alone grow old in this system, right, Mom? That's a fact, Joanne. That's a fact.
We were told this as facts. You know, we wouldn't grow up in the system. We wouldn't have a chance to get married in the system. We wouldn't have kids in this system. We wouldn't die in the system. That this generation would by no means pass away before the end. Well, look at, you know, Mike and I are in our 50s. And we're of the 1975 generation. Imagine how all of those who were in the 1914 generation felt as they were dying. Oh my God, I was promised that I would not die in this system, that we would be in paradise by now.
It's a fact that the governments will turn on Babylon the Great and destroy Babylon the Great. You know, her smoke's gonna ascend to heaven forever and ever. It's a fact that the last religion left on this earth is gonna be Jehovah's chosen people, Jehovah's organization. And the fact shows that your preaching work is all but done. It doesn't even matter if you go back to the door-to-door preaching work right now, because all anybody has to do is go on YouTube, check the internet, who you guys are, and they're going to see that your opinions stated as facts are no longer viable. You guys have out-opinioned yourself. You've opinioned yourself right into oblivion.
It's a fact that I have listings here of kingdom halls that are going up for sale or have sold. I just sent a message to Adam, who takes care of the Watchtower property tracker, and I said, update, this kingdom hall just sold. One that was on our list up for sale just sold in Florida. And I mean, this is a full-time job just trying to keep up with this. You know, many have said in the past, oh, there's not that many kingdom halls selling. This is just for Texas. Thank you, Bonnie. This
There's
is five pages that I'm still working on. I've been working on this for weeks because there's so many in Texas going up for sale and selling right now.
So even if you decide that you can go back out and maybe restart your door-to-door preaching propaganda campaign, you don't have enough kingdom halls to make that happen, because they're going to try to go back to a resemblance of what they used to be. We're going to meet Wednesday morning at the Kingdom Hall at 9 o'clock, this little meeting for fields. Wait a minute, you can't, because that Kingdom Hall sold. Wait a minute, you mean to tell me I'm going to go out on a 2-hour preaching campaign if I have to drive 45 minutes to a Kingdom Hall? Oh, hell no. It's not going to happen. Watchtower recognizes that. That's why they're selling the Kingdom Hall. This is a fact. And they also recognize it because you can see this morning worship, the words coming out of his mouth are facts. They're unraveling. They're becoming unhinged.
Yeah. Thank you, Trevor. He just sent me a list, and I didn't even bother printing it up. I just have the document in my file. It's 15 pages of congregations that he went to the opencorporates.org website, and he is going through all of these corporate congregations, and they're showing they're inactive. So are these congregations being merged and dissolved? We don't know right now. But 15 pages of inactive congregations? That's a lot.
See, those 8 governing idiots have not learned.
Yeah.
They still think that they're, God's chosen people. They still think that they're going to be used by Jesus to rule as 144,000. And yet, if you guys take the time to go and watch a video that XJW Elder's wife Jane Doe did a little while ago in 1962 or 1963 in the Awake, whichever one it was, Watchtower admitted that the book of Revelation was not completed and it had to be added to make it a complete book. Well, if Watchtower is aware of that, then guess what, friends? There is no Armageddon. Because if the book of Revelation had to be completed at a later date, then it's all bullshit.
Yeah. We did videos several years ago reading right from a Watchtower magazine about the apostate Christians that were translating the Bible right in their own Watchtower. See, these are facts. It is in black and white and in audios.
That's right.
These are facts. These are not, twisted lies by wicked men.
The only way Watchtower could even possibly have a resemblance of keeping their sinking ship afloat is you've got to get rid of all this information. And it needs to start with getting it off of jw.org. Now, when you Jehovah's Witnesses see this happen, then you'll know we're not lying.
Yeah.
They have to do that because it's also an embarrassment to certain sectors of Christianity when an organization like this admits openly that the book of Revelation had to be completed before it became part of the canon. That's my words, but that's basically what they're saying, only they spread it out in some, lengthy bullshit propaganda Watchtower article.
So how can they possibly use all of those scriptures in Revelations to prove that there's going to be a paradise earth, a resurrection of everyone, and Armageddon?
In Armageddon. They can't prove it, so now it just becomes an opinion.
Yeah. So our battery's running out. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and thank you for all the wonderful comments and emails and your love and support. We appreciate it very much, and we hope you have a wonderful week.
Bye.
Bye.